How's it going, everyone? Today I got probably one of the craziest stories I've ever received. I know for a fact you will enjoy it, so sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's just get right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Ryan. So anyways, Ryan was in school, and there's this kid who we're just going to call the spoiled kid. And anyways, right, the spoiled kid was not your ordinary spoiled kid. Not even close. This spoiled kid was kind of a genius, but he eventually got in trouble, but kind of a genius. So the spoiled kid received a ton of money in allowance every single week. I don't know about you guys, but I never received an allowance. Like, a lot of people might receive like 10, 20 bucks a week, but a lot of people also don't receive an allowance. But the spoiled kid, unlike most people, received like hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single week from his parents, because his parents were like, had a lot of money, and they're just like, hey, whatever, do what you want with it. Which I don't know if just giving your kid money is a great parenting technique, but hey, man, I mean, the spoiled kid was able to run the middle school mafia, so maybe there's something to it. But anyways, right, this spoiled kid had created kind of like a mafia of sorts, like a kind of like a gang of sorts, some kind of like criminal organization in the 4th grade. Yes, by the way, they're all in the 4th grade. So basically, how this worked was the spoiled kid would pay people $5 a day, right? And he would pay a ton of people to be in his mafia slash gang. We're just going to call it the middle school mafia. To be in the middle school mafia and to do his bidding, he would pay them $5 a day. For the spoiled kid, this was not a big deal. Yes, he was paying like 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks a day, which is a ton of money, by the way. But he was receiving hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single week from his parents, so he still had a good deal of money left over. And basically, right, especially middle school, $5 a day, man. Like, I would, if I was in the 4th grade and someone said, hey, do what I say and I'll give you $5 a day, I would be doing that. Low-key, I might even do that now. Like, I don't know. But anyways, because of this, the spoiled kid was basically able to have control of like 20, 30 plus people, right? They were now in the middle school mafia, and they were paid off to do his bidding. So this all happened one day when Ryan, the subscriber who submitted this story, you can submit the story to my Instagram or Twitter account. One day, Ryan was in class, in his math class. This was the only class that Ryan and the spoiled kid had together. Today was also a test day. So basically that meant that they had a really big test slash assignment that was coming up, that they, not that it was coming up, that was happening. And, the spoiled kid was too busy, collecting money from his parents and distributed, my brain has switched off, distributing it to his mafia members, that he didn't have time to study. And it was a pretty big test. So the spoiled kid, sits right next to Ryan. And when Ryan is almost done with the test and the spoiled kid's barely done anything, the spoiled kid leans over. It's like, hey, Ryan, what are the answers? It just blatantly says, what are the answers to him? Ryan and the spoiled kid aren't friends. It's not that they don't get along, at least up to this point. It's not that they don't get along. It's that they just aren't friends. They just aren't close like that. So it just makes absolutely no sense for Ryan to just hand over the answers for no reason. So Ryan is like, sorry, bro, like, I can't do that. And the spoiled kid, who kind of looks at him. And at this point, right, Ryan isn't he isn't aware of the middle school mafia. He's heard rumors that this kid has like a lot of people that do what he wants or whatever, but he doesn't totally understand what lengths the middle school mafia will go to, which you'll see pretty soon. So Ryan, like, is looking at him, and the spoiled kid is kind of just staring him down. I think the spoiled kid was thinking, I'm going to give this kid a chance to reconsider his thoughts, like to reconsider his actions, because I am, I am the godfather of the middle school mafia or whatever, right? I am the top guy, right? They do what I say. And, I'm sure he knows that if he doesn't do what I ask, that bad things will happen to him. The thing is, though, Ryan had no idea. So, sure enough, the spoiled kid looks at him and says, I'm going to give you one more chance. Ryan, who had no idea what the middle school mafia was like, bro, no, like, just saying I'm going to give you one more chance isn't going to change my mind, which would make sense in most occasions. However, right, Ryan would soon figure out later on that there were consequences to his actions, even though Ryan did do the right thing. So anyways, Ryan finishes his test, hands, the test in, and he doesn't really hear anything from the spoiled kid, and he doesn't really realize anything is going wrong until the next day at recess. So at recess, and they had recess in 4th grade, there was a playground. There's a lot of things on the playground. There was a broken tether ball, which I don't know about you guys, but we used to have a tether ball at my school, and it would literally break within 2 days because kids would just be whacking it again and again and again. There was some other things, but kind of like the thing that Ryan enjoyed the most were the swing sets. And the swing sets were, they were pretty popular, but Ryan and his friend, we'll just say Ben, Ryan and his friend Ben always went to the swing sets. They would sit on the swings, they would swing on the swing sets, and then they would talk about whatever, right? They talk about like their new Pokemon cards they just bought, or I don't know, man. They talk about whatever, right? So on this day, Ryan and Ben, and this is one day after Ryan refused to give answers to the spoiled kid, aka the middle school mafia boss, right? So the next day comes around, and as Ryan and Ben are going over to the swing set, 3 guys who Ryan kind of knows, but also kind of doesn't know because they're in the 5th grade, so they're 1 grade older than them. They walks over, stands in front of them, right? Stands in front of the swing set, and it's just like, you can't swing on these swings, bro. And Ryan looks at them, and it's just like, what are you talking about? By the way, these stories are on Spotify. First thing, the link in the description. If you do use the Spotify, please rate it 5 stars. But anyways, sorry. Ryan and his friend Ben are stopped at the swing set by 3 5th graders, 1 grade older that they don't recognize. And the 5th graders say, you can't sit on these swings. Like, you can't get to these swings, man. Like, we're not going to allow you. And Ryan and Ben are like, what are you talking about? Do you guys just want to use the swings? And they say no. And this is what really confuses Ryan, because Ryan was sure that, oh, okay, whatever. Right, they just want to use the swing set, and, like, that's fine. It's a little aggressive to be like, you can't use them, instead of saying, hey, man, like, we were just about to get on. Okay, whatever, right? But then the kid's going to say, you're blacklisted on the middle school mafia. You are, like, the #1 target right now. I'm sorry, but these swings are property of the middle school mafia, and anyone blacklisted is not allowed on the swings. So at this point, Ryan is just like, what? He's so confused because he doesn't even know what the middle school mafia is. He knows the spoiled kid. He's heard rumors that the spoiled kid has like people working for him or something like that. But anyways, he doesn't know what the middle school mafia specifically is. So he looks at him. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, what's the middle school mafia? And the 3 5th graders look at each other. 2 of them are like laughing or whatever. And the third is like, oh, you're about to know what the middle school mafia is, bro. You're about to know. And so they all just stand there, almost like a bouncer, right? Just standing there, making sure that he doesn't get to the swings. And Ryan and Ben are like kind of standing there. And Ben is like, so when are you guys going to be done with the swings? Because Ben doesn't totally get it. I mean, Ryan's pretty confused, but he at least understands that, oh, like, I'm not going to get used to these swings. And the kids respond to Ben. One of the 5th graders says, yeah, we'll be done when recess is over. You can come back then, which obviously recess is over means they can't use the swings. But Ben is like, oh, okay. So Ben and Ryan, they walk back, and Ben's like, what was that all about? And Ryan's like, dude, I actually have no idea. Like, I'm super confused. I don't totally understand what this middle school mafia thing is, but I got to look into it. I did hear that, like, this kid, like, in my class has, like, people who work for him or something really weird. I don't know if there's a connection there. I guess we'll find out. So anyways, Ryan decides that he's going to ask around. And when it's lunchtime, he sits at the table, and he just says, hey, like, boys, does anyone know what the middle school mafia is? And one of the kids turns and looks at him, and, like, a lot of kids shake their heads no, but one kid turns and looks at him and says, like, yes, like, I can tell you about it, like, why do you need to know? And he says, oh, someone said I was, like, blacklisted or something. And the kid who said, I know a thing or two, is like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. And Ryan's like, what? Why are you sorry? Like, is something wrong? And the kid kind of looks at him and kind of, like, grimaces a little bit. He's like, all right, man, like, so basically, the spoiled kid, and obviously says his actual name. And Ryan's like, yeah, that kid was in my class. He's like, okay, so basically, That kid runs an organization of these other kids that he basically pays every day to do his bidding. He asks them to do something, they'll do it. And basically it's turned into this type of like mafia thing, and they call themselves the middle school mafia. And it's kind of it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, if that kid doesn't like you, life's gonna be pretty hard. And Ryan's like, well, he did ask me for the test answers yesterday, and I said no to him. And he said, like, he gave me a look and said, I'll give you another chance to rethink it. And, Ryan's friend's like, well, did you rethink it? Did you tell him? And Ryan was like, no. Why would I retell him? Why would I tell him that? That makes no sense. Like, he just wants the answers. So anyways, Ryan asked a few more questions. He said, oh, like, what does it mean to be blacklisted? And the kid says, I don't totally know, but what I've heard, it basically means that, like, they're going to make your life very difficult, at least until you get off that list. And then Ryan's next question, pretty logically, is, okay, how do I get off that list? And the kid says, I don't know. Basically, the spoiled kid decides who is on the list and who's off, and like who gets off the list as well. I think you're probably going to have to go to him and talk to him about it. And Ryan is like pretty abrasive. He's like, bro, I'm not doing that. Like, that kid sucks. And like the fact that he's doing this because I didn't allow him to cheat off of me, like, is even worse. Like, I don't really care. I'm not going to go to him. I'm not going to beg for his forgiveness or whatever. It's fine. I'll just deal with not being on the swings for a couple days. And the friend who was telling him about the middle school mafia kind of looked at Ryan as like, all right, bro, but like, if it gets too bad, you might want to reconsider. And Ryan was like, no, like, that's not going to happen. Next day comes around. So Ryan was talking with this girl, and he and this girl have been talking for a little bit, and I don't even know what that even means in 4th grade. Like, what are they going to do? Is like 10th base holding hands or something? Who knows, man. But anyways, right, Ryan and this girl have been talking, and he goes up to her to talk to her as normal because they have a class together, and she kind of like starts to avoid him. Like, he's like, hey, how's it going? She's like, hi. And like turns away. And this was very strange behavior. Like, this was really strange behavior. So the thing is, right, Ryan, was friends with Ryan was friends with one of these girl's friends. So let's just call the girl that he's talking to Ava, and the friend of Ava, Kate. So Ryan had connections with Kate, like he was friends with her. So normally Ryan would go to her to be like, hey, how am I doing with Ava? And every single day it'd be like, oh, you're doing great. She really likes you. Just keep talking to her, whatever. So after class, Ryan goes up to Kate and is like, what's up with like Ava today? Like, did I do something wrong? And Kate like looks at him and is like, I don't know how to put this. He's like, what? He's like, well, these like 5th graders came up to us and said like that you were really bad news, and to talk to you would like destroy our reputations or whatever, and that if they saw us talking with you, that they would spread rumors about us. And at this point, Ryan was like, what? Like, what 5th graders? And they said the names, and, Ryan remembered one of the names as being one of the kids who blocked him from the swing set. So basically, Ryan realized that the middle school mafia is not just blocking him from, being on the swings with his friends, but somehow the middle school mafia realized that, this girl Ava was the girl that he really liked and was talking to. And they basically said, hey, if you talk to me, you're going to be ostracized from 4th grade society or something. So this is when Ryan realized that the middle school mafia ran deep. It ran incredibly deep. And that they knew a thing, like that they must know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who somehow knows Ryan is like talking to this girl. So Ryan is like, looks at Kate and says, hey, like, I'm going to tell you like what's up. And so he goes on to say everything that happened. And Kate's like, yeah, I kind of had a suspicion it wasn't true, but there's also not much we can do about it. Like, we know a little bit about what the spoiled kids like group or whatever is, and they're just really powerful, and like, we don't want to be like bullied or anything ourselves. So basically Kate went on to say that, Ava's probably not going to talk to you, like, until you get this sorted out. And he said, it's nothing against you. It's just that, like, we don't want to be, like, we don't want to be messed with, right? We don't want to be bullied or anything like that. And it's kind of a weird place, like, for me, like, reading this story that was submitted to me, because I'm like, it's like, that's tough that, like, this girl would stop talking to you because, like, of something out of your control. But also, I kind of get it. Like, I really do kind of get it. And it is something that, because, I mean, you don't want your life ruined. But anyways, right. Sure enough, Ryan is like, okay, whatever, right? I'm not going to, So at this point, Ryan is kind of like conflicted. He's like, I don't want to like go talk to this guy and give him like the, oh, I'm so sorry, man. Let me kiss your butt. Your butt is so wet. Like, okay, maybe I didn't need to go into that detail, but you know what I mean? He didn't want to kiss his butt like that. He didn't want to be like, oh, you're so great. I'm so sorry. You are right. Cheating is 100% okay, and I should have let you do it. In fact, I should have let you punch me in the face afterwards to prove how I'm such a bad little boy. Okay, now I'm just being weird with it. But you get what I mean. Ryan didn't want to give up, right? He didn't want, I don't know, he didn't want to like concede like that. He didn't want to concede, and but it was getting to the point that Ryan was starting to realize that, you know, this is starting to get a little bit more serious and that this middle school mafia is running a bit deeper than he expected. So for the next couple days, Ryan, you know, he would leave his backpack in, you know, his locker, and he would come back and his backpack would be gone. And every single one of these days too, like there was kids watching him at recess to see if he went to the swings. And if he went, there was one time he tried to go to the swings, they ran up, they were like, nope, sorry, you can't go on these. And, you know, and still in class, Ava was not talking to him. But over these days, too, his backpack would disappear at the end of the day. And he would have to go throughout the school, checking in every classroom. And after about like 20, 30 minutes of looking, he would eventually find it in some really obscure place. Like he would find it in the janitor's closet on the second floor. He would find it behind a desk in a classroom that is like for third graders that he hasn't been in since last year. And at this point, Ryan was completely fed up. So the next day, Ryan goes to the principal and tells him everything. And the principal's like, okay, like I've heard rumors about this. I've heard other people like say stuff, but he says, you know, if you really want, you know, he said I could like say that like I could try and bring these kids in and talk to them. But he said, if I don't have like a lot of hard evidence, there's only so much I can do. He says, however, like, if you want to somehow collect this hard evidence, if you can get proof that they're doing what you're saying, then sure, we can actually do something about it. So Ryan and his friend, you know, Ryan and Ben, you know, or Ryan goes back to Ben or calls him on the phone or something and is like, hey, like, I need proof and I need to like figure out how to do it. So they sit down for like 3 hours and they're trying to figure out a plan. And eventually they come to the plan that basically what Ryan is going to do is he's going to ask the spoiled kid to talk, right? That he wants to have like a concession. And that Ryan is going to record the entire conversation. It's probably going to be like he's going to borrow Ben's iPhone because Ryan didn't have a phone at the time, but Ben had one. And it had a voice recording, like voice memos or whatever function on it. And that Ryan was going to wear like a collared shirt with like a pocket or somehow the phone was going to be on his body. It was going to be on it. It was going to be out. I don't know. It was going to be in a way that, you know, it could pick up sound, but also not be super obvious. So sure enough, they find a way to do that. I don't totally know how it is, but they find a way to do that. And Ryan, you know, walks up to the spoiled kid after math class and says, hey, can we talk after school? And the spoiled kid looks at him very smugly and says, I was waiting for you to say something like that. And so sure enough, right, the spoiled kid, you know, waits after school, goes up to him, and Ryan finds him, and the spoiled kid's like, come with me, Ryan, come with me. And so they go to an empty classroom. And the spoiled kid's like, Ryan, why don't you take a seat? And Ryan takes a seat, right? And the spoiled kid stands in front of him and is just kind of looking down and says, so, I've heard that you figured out about my little middle school mafia going on right now. I've heard you heard about it, right? And Ryan's like, yeah, you know, life's been pretty tough. And he's like, I want to like concede, right? And the spoiled kid's like, well, Ryan, it's not that easy. And Ryan's like, oh, like, what do you need me to do? And he says, well, I need you to promise that every single time we have an assessment or a quiz in math class, that you'll give me, the information for free, that you'll give me all the answers 100% for free and every single time, and that you won't cause a fuss. And Ryan's like, I can concede to those demands. But Ryan says, please, but I just want to know, tell me about like what this middle school mafia is. I need to know. And basically, right, somehow this worked. The spoiled kid went on a complete ego trip maniac rant where he said literally every single detail. He talked about how his parents give him so much money because they're afraid of him, and that he takes that money and spends a little bit on pays like tens of people or whatever, 10, 20, 30 people to do exactly what he wants to do. He says that he's like, threatened and other people to do his bidding, that he basically runs the school. And Ryan keeps pressing, like, who exactly? Like, I want to know. Spoiled kid literally names every kid in the middle school mafia. And then Ryan goes on to say, can you tell me more specific things about the people that you've threatened or whatever? It's like, if this kid wasn't in the 4th grade, he would have known that Ryan was wearing a wire. But this kid was in the 4th grade. He was having an ego trip because all the 5th graders did what he wanted to do. And he basically explained everything. And afterwards, Ryan's like, all right, man, I'll give you all the answers from here on out. And so afterwards, Ryan leaves. He takes the phone out of his pocket. Thankfully, it was recording. That would have been embarrassing if it was not recording. And he checks it. The audio is a little bit muffled, but it's clear enough that you can hear what's being said, and the voice is distinct enough that you know it's the spoiled kid. So after the next day, Ryan first thing goes up to the principal's office, hands him the evidence, and the principal now has something something tangible to basically pursue the middle school mafia with. So basically what happens is the principal, within a couple hours, calls up both the spoiled kid and all 20, 30 members of the middle school mafia to his front office. This has been the only time, because people have been called up to the front office before, but this is the only time that a list of 20 to 30 seemingly random people have all been called up. The punishment to the spoiled kid was probably the worst. He was suspended for a couple days. He was told to write a paper apologizing to Ryan and apologizing to everyone else that he's tormented or whatever. And he was also he got the worst punishment. Everyone else in the middle school mafia, they had 1 day of in-school suspension, and also they were asked to also write up why, it was wrong for them to take money to do immoral deeds or whatever. And also, from that point on, it was a school rule that you could not bring money into school, and you also couldn't have money in school unless, specified by the teacher that you needed to bring in money for, a field trip. I don't even know. If you were caught with money in the school, it was, actually pretty harshly punishable from that point on. And, Ryan did not end up giving the spoiled kid any math answers from that point on because he didn't hold any power. It's just how it is, man. Leave a like if you haven't already. Go watch.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.